Imagine standing in the middle of a desert. The sun is relentless, the ground is cracked and white with salt, and right in front of you, half buried in the sand, is a fleet of giant fishing boats. They are rusted skeletons, their nets torn, their hulls pointing towards a horizon with no water in sight. This isn't just one boat, it's a graveyard of ships, dozens of them, stranded miles from any shore, forever anchored in a sea of sand. The scene makes no sense. It's a broken piece of reality, an impossible image that whispers a terrifying question. What happened here? To understand, we have to rewind the clock just 60 years. This blistering desert was once the floor of the Aral Sea. It wasn't just a lake, it was one of the 4 largest inland seas on the entire planet. A vast, shimmering body of fresh water in the heart of Central Asia, teeming with life. Picture an oasis bigger than the entire country of Switzerland. Its shores supported 60,000 fishermen. Its waters were a highway for trade and a source of life for millions. The Aral Sea was a vibrant, stable ecosystem that had existed for thousands of years. It was a permanent feature of the map, or so everyone thought. The story of its death begins with a grand, almost unbelievable ambition. In the 1960s, the Soviet Union decided to transform the dry, arid plains of Central Asia into the world's largest cotton plantation. They called cotton white gold, and they were going to create an empire from it. This wasn't a secret plot to destroy a sea. It was a plan born from a belief that nature could be bent to human will. A dream of making the desert bloom, of turning unproductive land into a source of immense wealth and power. They saw the rivers that fed the Aral Sea not as its lifeblood, but as wasted water that could be put to better use. The ambition was monumental, a testament to humanity's power to reshape the planet. They aimed to create a new agricultural heartland from scratch. The scale was staggering, but in their quest to create a paradise of cotton, they made a fatal decision. They decided to unplug a sea. The plan was brutally simple. The Aral Sea was kept alive by 2 mighty rivers, the Amu Darya and the Seer Darya. For centuries, these rivers flowed down from the mountains, carrying water and life into the Great Basin. The Soviet engineers decided to capture them. They built a colossal network of canals, a web of man-made rivers stretching over 37,000 miles. These channels, many of them unlined and leaky, diverted nearly all the water from the Amu Darya and Seer Darya away from the sea and into the desert to irrigate the new cotton fields. The lifeblood was cut off. The sea was now on its own. For the people who lived on the coast, the change was slow, then terrifyingly fast. At first, the water receded just a few feet a year. Docks had to be extended. Then it was pulling back dozens of feet. The sea was literally walking away from their towns. Imagine being a fisherman, waking up one morning to find the shoreline is 100 feet further away than it was yesterday. Your boat, once floating, is now sitting in mud. The next year, that same spot is a dusty plain. The sea didn't just shrink. It vanished from the horizon, leaving people and their entire way of life stranded in a new, alien world. As the water disappeared, a strange thing happened. The salt stayed behind. With less and less water, the Aral Sea grew saltier and saltier. Soon, it was far more salty than any ocean on Earth. For the fish that had lived there for thousands of years, this was poison. The ecosystem began to collapse. It happened fast. The fish, unable to live in the toxic salty water, died in huge numbers. The birds that ate the fish starved. The mammals that lived by the shore fled. An entire web of life built over millennia simply unraveled. The thriving fishing industry, which had supported 60,000 jobs, vanished. The once bustling ports were now miles from the water's edge. Huge fishing boats were left stranded on the dry sand like giant metal skeletons in a graveyard. They became monuments to a dead sea. But the sea didn't just disappear. It left something terrible in its place. The shrinking water exposed a vast new landscape of seabed. An area larger than the entire country of Belgium was now dry land. But this wasn't just sand. For decades, the rivers that fed the Aral had carried more than just water. They carried runoff from the giant cotton farms. This runoff was full of pesticides, fertilizers, and all sorts of chemicals. All that toxic stuff settled on the bottom of the sea, waiting, and now it was exposed to the air. This new desert, called the Aral Sea, is one of the most dangerous on the planet. The story got stranger. The sea was gone, but its ghost remained, a toxic ghost that could fly. Powerful winds now sweep across the exposed seabed. They pick up the fine poisoned sand and salt. Every year, these winds create enormous dust storms, lifting an estimated 100 million tons of toxic dust into the atmosphere. These are not normal dust storms. They are clouds of poison. They carry salt and agricultural chemicals hundreds, sometimes thousands of miles away. They have been found on the glaciers of Greenland and in the forests of Norway. The death of one sea was becoming a problem for the entire world. Think about the people who lived there. They had lost their jobs, their way of life, and their sea. Now, the very air they breathed was trying to kill them. The toxic dust created a public health disaster unlike any other. The dust gets into everything: the water, the food, and people's lungs. In the region around the Aral Sea, rates of respiratory illnesses skyrocketed. Cancers of the throat and esophagus became tragically common. The health of children was hit the hardest. The area saw some of the highest infant mortality rates in the world. This wasn't just an environmental disaster. It was a human catastrophe written in the lungs and the lives of the people left behind. The poison on the wind was just the beginning. The Aral Sea's disappearance did something even bigger. It broke the weather. A huge body of water like the Aral acts as a climate moderator. It soaks up heat during the blazing summers and slowly releases it during the freezing winters, keeping the region stable. But when the moderator was gone, the climate went wild. Summers became hotter and drier. Winters grew colder and longer. The growing season for crops shrank. The very air changed because the water that once shaped it was simply gone. It was a man-made climate shift, localized but devastating. And yet, that is not the end of the story. In the northern part of the sea, in Kazakhstan, a truly remarkable effort began. While the vast southern sea was considered lost forever, a plan was made to save the small part that was left. A last stand for a dying sea. Engineers and locals built a massive wall of earth and rock. It was called the Aral Dam. This dam stretched for 13 kilometers, a simple but enormous barrier designed to do one thing: hold on to every last drop of water flowing from the Sir River and stop it from spreading out and evaporating across the southern wasteland. The dam worked. It worked better than anyone dared to hope. In just a few years, the water level in this new, smaller North Aral Sea began to rise. The water, no longer spread thin and baking in the sun, became less salty. The change was so fast, it was almost unbelievable. And with the water, life returned. Fish populations, once thought to be extinct in the sea, started to reappear. First a few species, then more. Soon, the water was teeming again. The fishing boats, long left to rust, were put back on the water. A small fishing industry was reborn. Think about that. In a place that had become a symbol of total environmental collapse, people were pulling fish from the water again. Children who had only heard stories of the Great Sea could now see it for themselves. It was a small victory, a tiny piece of a vast tragedy, but it was real. The story of the Aral Sea is really two stories. It is the story of one of the worst environmental disasters in human history, a warning written in salt and dust, a lesson in how quickly we can destroy something vast and ancient. But it is also the story of the Aral Dam. It is a story of hope, a testament that even when we push our world to the very brink, sometimes, with great effort and a little luck, we can help a small piece of it heal. It shows us that a wound on the planet doesn't always have to be fatal. The rusted ships still sit in the desert of the South Aral. They are monuments to a lost world. They serve as a constant, silent reminder of the sea that was. They are strange, haunting landmarks in a landscape that shouldn't exist. And just a few hundred miles north, the water laps against a new shore. The two parts of the Aral Sea now tell the complete story. One part is the ghost, the memory of what was lost. The other is a living, breathing seed of what can be saved. It's a powerful lesson for our entire planet. We live on a world of interconnected systems where one action can ripple outwards in ways we can't predict. The Aral Sea isn't just a dried-up lake in Central Asia. It's a mirror showing us both our capacity for destruction and our potential for renewal.